Hey guys, what's up? My name is Kyle Edgley with Real Havoc, and today we're going to be taking a look at a time freeze effect. We're going to be going over everything from how to film it, what camera settings you should have, and how to composite everything in 3D space. But let's take a look at what we're going to be making today. Alright, now that you've seen it, we're going to get started. If you guys get confused at any point of this tutorial and can't figure something out, just private message us. We'd love to help you out. But we're going to be going pretty fast. It's going to be a fast-paced tutorial because there's a lot of information to get into a small amount of time without wasting your lives. If you'd like to follow along, down in the description below, you can find several links. It's going to have the footage and then all the alpha mats, all the rotoscoping, so you don't have to take care of any of that. You can go just straight to the effects. Okay, first thing we're going to talk about is how you actually film a shot like this. And you need to take several preparations. One is making sure the settings on your camera are all set. You want to make sure you don't have a high ISO, because if you have a high ISO, you're going to have a lot more grain. And if you have a lot of film grain, things are going to be moving around and kind of sizzling, if you will. And that's going to take away from the frozen effect, being able to see that grain. And also, you're going to want to put your shutter speed pretty high, and that's going to create no motion blur and a very sharp image. Ways that you can achieve this is by pumping a lot of light into your scene. If you look into our behind the scenes video, you can see we have a 9-light setup, and that room was literally just blinding when we were filming. But that allows you to do both those things without sacrificing quality. The other thing you're going to want to make sure you do is film at 60 frames per second if you can, because then we're going to convert it down to 24 frames per second, and that's going to really slow down and smooth out the footage, which is really beneficial for this. You want to make sure you have a very smooth shot, so you're going to want to use a slider, a dolly, a glide cam, something like that. We had the cameraman hold a fig rig and then sit down on a wheelchair, so we pulled him back, and that created a very smooth, fluid motion with the camera, which really helps with that time freeze because you don't want any shakes. As for all the actors, some of you had asked if they were pictures. They're actually not. They were really in there. They just held the breath, opened their eyes nice and wide, and acted frozen, and we just moved the camera away. When you slow down your footage and you use warp stabilizer, it really just freezes them completely and they look frozen. Alright, now that we talked how to get the shot a little bit, we're going to start preparing the footage for all the effects. So we're going to hop into After Effects. If you went to the link below and downloaded the video and the masks, you don't have to do this next part, because it's going to be about the rotoscoping and the preparing the footage for everything. So you can skip to this time right here. First thing we're going to do is take our footage that was filmed at 60 frames per second at 720p, and we're going to convert the frame rate and make it 1080p. So first we're going to convert the frame rate, click your footage, you're going to right click it, and go down into interpret footage and then main. Where it says 59.94, we're going to change that to 23.97, and then just click OK. Okay, we're going to take our footage and drag it up into the comp, and there's going to be big black walls on the side. We're going to make this bigger, we're going to make it up to 1080, so we're going to use Magic Bullet Instant HD. You could use the After Effects scaling, but this gives better quality. Drop down the slider and put it at custom. Make sure you click the checkbox so your aspect ratio is free. Top one goes to 1920 and the bottom one goes to 1080. Make sure the filter type is set from quick to best because you want the best quality always. And all the other settings, the sharpness, quality, all of those are just going to be maxed out. Just top them off. Okay, after that, we're going to take our footage, right-click it, and go to Pre-Compose. We're going to take all the attributes and move it into a new composition. Click OK. And then over on the right-hand side, we're going to search for an effect. We're going to type the word in Warp and look for Warp Stabilizer. We're going to put that on the footage and let it just do its job. Okay, after that's all done stabilizing, we're going to go up to Composition and then go to Render Queue. We're going to go to Losses. A lot of people ask, what's the best format for rendering out? If you're planning on using it again, I suggest Apple ProRes 444. It's almost like uncompressed footage, but it has a nice fast playback. Click OK, name it whatever you want, click Render. Okay, after you're done rendering, we're going to start the tracking. If you downloaded the footage in the description, you don't have to do anything that we just did. You can start right here. That's all been done for you. But what we're going to do is go up to the effects, and we're going to go to the Foundry Camera Tracker. Set that up. Okay, once that comes up, we're going to click specified range in this little drop box, and then in the second little thing under it, we're going to type in 479. That's the how many frames we're going to go up to. Then below, just click track motion. It's going to track all the way through and all the way back. It could take a little while. Just let it do its thing. After that's done tracking all those little points frontwards and backwards, we're going to go over and click solve camera. Click OK. Once that's done, we're going to click Create Scene. And what this is going to do is create a camera and a null that moves in 3D space relative to what our camera actually did in the live action footage. Next, what we're going to do is take that bottom source layer footage and we're going to duplicate it by pressing Command D. And then we're going to go up and click the camera tracker effect on that duplicated version and just get rid of it. We don't need it. Then we're going to scrub ahead in time a little bit. We're going to select that bottom layer again and click on the camera tracker effect, and that's going to bring all the dots back. Now we're going to keep on scrubbing ahead a little bit until we find a place where we want the fire to be. And in the bottom right of that door frame, we want to have fire going up that wall. So what we're going to do is click it once, hold down Command, click it again, go down to Create, and then Null. Now we're going to take that bottom layer and make it invisible. We don't want this processing in the background, that's why we duplicated it. Now that null that we just created, make sure it's not parented to anything because that is going to kill the effect. Next, what we're going to do is go back to the little project window and import some stock footage. I'm using Action Essentials 2. I'm going to go into their fire section and use Torch Windy 1. Open that up, drop it down into the footage. And we're just going to scrub this back and forth a little until we find an interesting looking flame that we want to freeze on. That one looks pretty good. We're going to right click it, go up to time, and then time freeze. That's going to make it completely frozen. Now we're going to take this footage and drag it out so it plays through the entire clip. Next, we're going to turn this into a 3D layer. We're going to toggle the switches and make sure we have the transfer mode to add. This is going to make it look more like fire and interact with light. Click the null that you made just a second ago and press P. This is your position. You want to click on position and press Command C to copy it. Now press P on the stock footage and paste it onto that position. Now it's going to stay there because you have the camera moving around. Take the scale and scale it up and down and kind of move it around on the X and Y axis. You don't want to move the Z though. If you move the Z, you're going to mess up the whole effect and it won't look like it's tracking in there very well anymore. So move it around until you find a place that you like. And now if you scrub through the timeline, you'll see it stays there perfectly. Okay, next thing I'm going to do to make this look a little more like fire, I'm going to press Command Y, and this is going to make a new solid. Make sure it's black. Now when I toggle the switches, turn this into a 3D layer. And then we're going to press P and paste the position right in there. And it's going to go right to that null and where the fire is. We're going to go down to Optical Flares by Video Copilot. Great plugin. If you don't have it, I suggest getting it. Toggle the switches, make sure the transfer mode is on add. Take the position XY and put it right on top of the fire. Now obviously this is blue and not red, so we're going to go to the options and pick an orangey fire looking lens flare. I find the one in light, the first one, works very well for this. Okay, we're going to go and double click on this footage and it's going to bring it up in its own window. We're going to use the ellipse tool, so click this square and press Q a few times till you get the ellipse tool. And draw a circle around this lens flare. Now go back to your comp. Now obviously this is still too big, so we're going to press M twice. This is going to bring up our mask properties. We're going to bring down the expansion until we start seeing it come back into the footage. Alright, there it's coming in. And we're going to feather this out. There we go. Still too bright. We're going to take the brightness and go down to 30. And that looks about right. You want to do this on most of the fire in this video. It gives a nice hot burning effect. Another thing that you can do that I'm not going to currently do in this tutorial, but go ahead and experiment yourself. If you duplicate the fire, you can also make it brighter, and if you duplicate it a few times and add fast blur or Gaussian blur and blur way out, it'll put a nice ambient glow around the fire and also make it look very hot. As you can see, we have these horrendous looking big square lights, but we actually put those there on purpose because we knew we were going to be putting fire on those, and those were going to react really well with the floor and the shininess of the table. So what we're going to do is actually put fire on those too. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to click on that bottom layer footage and make it visible again. Go up and we're going to click the effect to make all those points appear again. And we're just going to look for a point on one of those lights. We see one right here. We're going to click it once, then hold down Command and click it again. Go down to Create and Null. And that's going to make another null on it. So now what we're going to do is make sure that null is not parented to anything. So go over to the right of it and make sure it's selected on None. Okay, now we're going to grab fire. Just bring that same fire we used earlier. The nice thing about using the same fire is every frame looks so different, and you can use the same element over and over and over and over again. So now go to time freeze, it's frozen, toggle the switches. We're going to make sure this is a 3D layer. We're going to click on the null that we just made, click P, and we're going to copy the position and paste it onto that stock footage that we just had. Alright, we're going to press S for the scale it down, and we're going to use the X and Y axis to move it and position it on that light. We're going to go a little bigger. Alright, just click the X and Y and find a place that you like. Right somewhere around there. It doesn't really matter. Toggles the switches. Make sure the transfer mode is on add. Then it will blend in with the light. Okay, now you can see it's on top of that piece of wood and the table if we move it around, and that is unacceptable. If you guys downloaded the other link in the description, it has all the rotoscoping. So we're going to open that up. Just import all those files. They're just a bunch of white shapes that you're going to see. We're going to take them all and drag them into their own comp. Make sure you click single composition. This is going to put them all in the same one. With them all selected in here, we're going to take the transfer mode and put it on screen. Then we're going to press Command Y, and this is going to make a black solid. We're going to take that and drag it to the bottom of all those. Go back into the other comp. Now we're going to take the comp that we just made up in the project window and drop it on top of that stock footage. Now on that stock footage right next to the transfer mode, we're going to click that and go to Luma Inverted. And what that's going to do is use all that white as a mask. You can do this on all the fire whenever it has to go behind, and you can use it in any combination. So let's say you just wanted the fire to go behind pieces of the wood, the fireman, and the last doorway. Then you would just make another composition with all those and leave out the table shape. Okay, that is the base for getting an effect like this. I'm not going to hold your hands throughout the whole thing because I know you guys are all big boys and that does not spark any creativity. Take what I taught you now and run with it. It's just the same process over and over and over, and trying to figure out where the fire should go, being fire crawling up the walls and such. Other final steps you can do is make sure you set all the stock footage to have motion blur, turn that on for your comp, and you can also enable depth of field on your camera, so as your camera pulls away, they actually blur out. Alright, this is the end of the tutorial. If you guys happen to do this effect, we'd love to see it. Post it as a video response below. If you guys have any problems or questions or just want to have a discussion about flesh-eating hamsters, you can post a comment or private message us. We'd love to talk to you about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.